Okay. Tuesday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the west coast of the contiguous United States. It is Red Sky at Morning Tuesdays here on the After Show.
Yeah.
That's right. There's a storm a brewing somewhere, and oh my God, Wink! You got lucky. You only got what, a couple of inches, but
about an inch. About an inch is all. Yeah, so far.
DC, and Manhattan. Geez, they got plastered.
Good,
but
good
how are you doing
it.
Otherwise?
I always figured Washington D.C. was a good place for that. Not bad. Like I say, there's about an inch of snow, and it's still snowing out there. The weatherman says 5 to 8 inches, but I'm thinking more like 3 to 4. Unless it really heats up here, but it's just really kind of coming down kind of slow. Might get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that, join us there.
And, of course, that donate contribute button is to the leftish of the chat room link. And thank you for your generosity on that. You have some choices in which to, put money into our coffers. It's not just PayPal. But we have PayPal there. We have Patreon. And we also have Square Cash.
Easy to do.
Very easy to do. And now, of course, we all know about PayPal, but we've been trying to do our due diligence and make sure that these are reputable companies, of course, that aren't necessarily going to be fraudulently using your data. No one ever wants that.
Right.
But also companies that hew towards the more liberal side of the spectrum. That's not always the case. Of course, we know about Peter Thiel, but, sometimes evils are necessary, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's still there, but you have some alternatives. And then, of course, after show pods can be had by way of Spreaker, which comes up pretty quick as the raw data file. And then the perfected files that Wink puts out later come by way of iTunes, Podbean, TuneIn, etc., etc., etc. So there you go. And let's see, here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 42 degrees. We're going to go up to low 70s. Right now it's a bit foggy. And though it is supposed to be partly sunny today, we do have rain forecast for tomorrow and the next few days. So I guess the shed that I need to build, and I have a guy who's going to help me build it, because I still have to lay all the pavers down. I'm using pavers for the flooring, and then I'll build the shed on that. It's a metal shed, quite large actually, but I still have to do that. But of course I've got now. Once again, I apologize for maybe being ageist, but it's hard not to call somebody in their low 30s like I call him a kid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, pretty much.
I apologize. I know he's a full-grown man with kids of his own.
Yep.
But he's a kid. And I have to admit that when I was his age, I never thought that I would call somebody in their 30s a kid.
Right.
But you do. You do.
Yeah, that happens.
But regardless, this young man, we'll go with that, quite strapping. So, and he does this as a business too. So, God, there's no way I could move a pallet full of pavers anymore, Wink, for a 14 by 14 shed. My God.
Some days are gone.
And I got to tell you, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, within 10 years, I would have been able to move those pavers off that pallet, stack them at where I needed them, and it probably would have taken me an hour, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe less.
Yeah. Right.
Now it's like, I don't know. It's going to take me all day, and then it's going to take me a week to recover. God.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which reminds me, I just said God. God never told us that part. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, you'll have a beautiful life. It'll be full of colors and scents and sensual experiences and And the food. But they never tell you how much pain is involved.
Yeah, once you get north of 55, the aches and pains start showing up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, being an old jock, my joke was, when they said I was immortal, I'm an immortal, right? When they said I was immortal, they never said it would hurt so much.
Right.
Immortals feel pain. They get to live forever, but boy, they get scars.
Yeah, exactly.
Scars here, scars there. Oh boy. It's Tuesday, and Trump has actually communicated of sorts. I love now how when he does his little photo ops, when he's got like some foreign dignitary or a group of people and he's signing some executive order that takes more rights away from people, and he has a bunch of people that are supposed to help, right, behind him. And then the press is there and they go, any word on the wiretap today? And he just kind of looks at people and goes, thank you. And he's seething inside because he wants to get up there and just yell at people. Quiet, shut up. Stop being rude. And he can't because I think Bannon and the rest of them finally got to him and said, look, or maybe it was Jared. Jared probably came to him and said, look, I'm getting half a billion from the Chinese on this hotel deal. Keep your fucking mouth shut.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And Trump goes, I know Jared's dad. Jared's dad's a mean guy. Maybe I might want to shut up. Perilous times, like.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about, like, at this point, what was the big scandal that, let's see, Sasha and Malia ate Chinese food during Chinese New Year?
Right.
I remember that was somewhat of a scandal when it happened. What else? Was, man, dad pants, dad jeans. That's what it was. Obama was wearing dad jeans, and that was the other scandal around this time in Trump's presidency. I mean, at this time in Trump's presidency, in similar time with Obama's. Jesus. Almost seems quaint, doesn't it?
It does.
Just about quaint. Well, these are the issues we will be attending to today, and they are the New York Attorney General. I think that's Schneiderman, isn't it? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, he says Rex Tillerson used a sock puppet while at ExxonMobil to discuss climate change online. Of course they do.
Yeah.
You got Trump doing John Barron, and John Miller calling up Page Six saying, "Oh yeah, that Donald Trump. I've been hearing some great reviews from models that he's bedded. Great reviews. I'm serious. He did. He called up and said Page Six said." As a spokesman, said, yeah, I've been talking to the models that he's taken to bed, and they say he's the best. And that was Trump doing that.
Yep.
Nashville cops still use a 3-decade-old training manual that warns recruits that communities of color and even kids who spent too much time in daycare are an inherent danger. That's right. Even we're told that public school kids are like indoctrinated into anti-government ideas, and to be wary of them also. And then we get to hear from them, we're not racist, it's just a few bad apples. Then you look at the training manual and go, well, whoa, it looks systemic to me. Well, we'll get into that when we get into it. And Senators Chuck Grassley and Debbie Stabenow, that sounds like bipartisan support, wink, introduce a bill that would require a safety review when U.S. food and agriculture firms are sold or merged with foreign companies. That's right. And for the last half, it is Tuesday, so hopefully, I know it's been a bit busy for him, and he might be literally under the weather. Not sick, but under the weather.
Yep.
And hopefully we get to connect with Chris Reeves, also known as Tom Servo 433, for an update on Kansas, Missouri, and other Midwestern political news. All that. Plus the Connect Unite Act Daily Co's community calendar and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow with his ever so subtle East Coastal elitism, though it is quite icy and,
Yeah.
and I don't know, covered in flakes of snow, and his name is Wing. And this guy all the way back over here in my I don't know, kind of nice Western elitism, coastal elitism. Yeah. With nice weather, beautiful conifers, legal pot. Oh my God. And my name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for about an hour-ish in this particular and specific tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby? We're going to work in Columbo and Kojak in this.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get like the one other thing. Oh, and one other thing.
We'll get there.
We'll work that. We will. Oh, does your microwave listen in on you, Wing?
Apparently, I guess that's the deal. I don't know.
I'll tell you what's scary is people wearing tinfoil hats, putting their heads in a microwave and trying to turn. That's what's scary to me. Not because of what might happen to them, but what might happen to the neighborhood around them. I mean, you got to consider the possibilities. But I don't know. It's just I just get so angry, Wink, because I joke around about, oh yeah, the great scandal was Obama's dad jeans, but the vitriol and the rebel flags that were flying and the racist bumper stickers that were attached to big old black smoke belching SUV 4x trucks, right? With their Dixie swastika flying redneck drivers. And I'm not trying to put down all rednecks, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, yeah.
When Obama came in, when I was working at the, that swank boutique bed and breakfast at the top of Nob Hill, the day after the election, of course, I'm working and there's it had a kind of a swank clientele, right? And of course, then it had some people that were of more modest means, and that might be their one big blowout for the next few years, right? So you had that kind of thing. But there was this one lady, and I'd seen her there before, and she was a business lady and came in for conferences and business, right? Other things. It being San Francisco. And the day after Obama got elected, she was sitting in the lobby off back by where the fireplace was, and she was crying. And, of course, I'm thinking, oh, maybe she's going through a divorce, or maybe her kid's going away to college, and, it's the nesting thing. Just trying to figure it out, right? And there was something that caused me to have to go over near her, and I picked up something. I brought her something. And, of course, she had the Wall Street Journal out, and Obama winning, and she'd look at it and put the paper down and start crying again. And it occurred to me she was crying because the black guy won. And then I had lady friends whose brothers were big stockbrokers back east. And they would tell me that they were all up in arms too. It was like the worst thing in the world that could have ever happened. Socialism, and he's not even a U.S. citizen. And I mean, it's just started immediately, right? Now, of course, we might say that the observations made by the Trump crew and their aides saying, well, no one's given Trump a chance, I have to say is a little bit different than what happened with Obama. Because Obama didn't get up on stage and basically say, I'm going to incarcerate as many white people as possible. And I'm going to stop everybody at the border that doesn't look like, our diverse population. If they're white, then they're going to get their papers. We didn't hear that. Not from Obama. We heard the fear of it from the feathered brains of these reptilians
Right.
So these same people that just vilified and made Obama this, the typical black monster who's going to come and kill people white people in their sleep for the sins they committed against his brethren, right? And then we have this crew in there who lie every single day, whose interests are not for the American people, but for their own self-interest. And it is blatant, it is brazen, it is out front. And these same people who vilified and demonized Obama see nothing wrong with this. So I'm sorry. I don't know if I want to make nice with those people. Especially when they still believe that people like you and me, Wink, probably should, maybe be dead.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm not joking about
Right.
that.
Oh, no.
That
No,
is
you're
what
not.
they say and think.
Yep. Absolutely.
We are a greater danger to them and what they think is America than Putin, Erdogan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm supposed to make nice with them, Wink.
Right.
Sorry. Can't do it. Okay, Rex Tillerson. Boy, he doesn't answer any questions either. He doesn't have to. He's an expert at going into countries that are in political disarray and then leaching out every last drop of renewable, type energy. Well, fossil fuel energy that they can get. And he doesn't do it by going out there making proclamations and manifestos. Okay? Let's remember that. Oh, and this is out of Reuters. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, the former chairman and chief executive of ExxonMobil Corp., used an alias email address while at the oil company to send and receive information related to climate change and other matters, according to New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. The Attorney General's office said in a letter yesterday that it found Tillerson had used an alias email address under the pseudonym Wayne Tracker from at least 2008 through 2015. Wayne is Tillerson's middle name. Ho, ho, ho. The letter was sent to a New York State judge overseeing Schneiderman's investigation into whether, and this is the part where using a sock puppet can get you in trouble, looking into whether Exxon misled shareholders and the public about climate change. In a statement on Monday, Exxon spokesman Alan Jeffers said, the email address wayne.tracker@exxonmobil.com is part of the company's email system and was put in place to secure and expedited communications between select senior company officials and the former chairman for a broad range of business-related topics. You mean like lying to your shareholders and other people so that if the truth came out, it wouldn't affect your bottom line. Is that what you're saying? Yes, of course, that's what he's saying, though he didn't really say that, did he now? And, of course, a State Department spokeswoman declined to comment on the matter. Now, I haven't seen spokeswoman for a while, Wink. Or even person.
Yeah, it's been a while, yeah. Yep.
Okay, just saying. It's always been spokesman. Even when it was, well, actually, you know what? Shouldn't it be spokesperson? That's what it should be.
Yeah, that's what it's been for the last 10, 15 years.
Now we got spokesman. Okay, well, I guess it's all right. The letter, seen by Reuters, said Exxon had not previously disclosed the alias account. It asked the judge to order Exxon to explain whether documents from the Wayne Tracker email and 34 additional accounts assigned to other Exxon executives and board members had been preserved. The letter said that Exxon had produced some 60 documents bearing the Wayne Tracker email, but never said it was used by Tillerson for relevant communications at Exxon. It asked the court to order Exxon to identify whether any other email accounts were used by Tillerson. Exxon's top executives, and in particular Mr. Tillerson, have made multiple representations that are at the center of the Attorney General's office investigation of potentially false or misleading statements to investors and the public. The case is People of the State of New York versus PricewaterhouseCoopers and ExxonMobil Corporation. Wow. That's PricewaterhouseCoopers messed up the Oscars too, didn't they? Interesting. Okay. Reporting on this article was by Karen Freifeld, with additional reporting by Ashad Mohammed, Ernest Shader, and editing done by Anthony Lynn and Diane Kraft. Thank you, crew. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Because, what we're talking about here is that shareholders would say, yeah, I've been hearing this stuff about sea levels rising because of climate change. And Exxon's own scientific arm was saying, we got to do stuff about sea level rise. In some cases, we got to add some more pipe to our platforms out there that are floating, because they're floating higher now. And Exxon said, yeah, I guess we're going to have to get some more pipe. And they did. But they don't tell the shareholders that week. They're stockholders. That's kind of illegal. Okay. Oh, I better hurry. This is by Brad Reed out of Raw Story. Police in Nashville are still using a 3 decades old training book that warns prospective officers about the dangers of minority communities and even of children who spend too much time in daycare. Nashville Public Radio reports that the National Police Academy still assigns a 1986 textbook called Tactical Edge that discusses ethnic minority groups that are disproportionately associated with criminal violence. Additionally, the book warns darkly of preschoolers left in daycare centers who purportedly grow up to be 15 times more aggressive than other youngsters. Now, you understand, the black single mom has to take her kid to daycare because she's going to get a job.
Right.
And then if she doesn't get a job and she keeps the kids at home, then it's like they're just on welfare. I mean, one can never win in this scenario. Like, it's always lose, lose, lose.
Pretty much, yep.
And of course, this is the American carnage that Trump lives in. This is back in the 80s when, identifiable ethnic groups were flexing muscles and white people could point to them and say, they're all just nothing but a bunch of welfare queens and pimps and crack babies. And they're all criminally inclined. Jeez. And they're still using this, Wink. Captain Keith Stevens, who runs the Nashville Police Academy, tells Nashville Public Radio that the sections of the book on minority communities and aggressive preschoolers are not taught to current students. He also adds that the textbook is just one of many different sources used for police training. But Michael Lyman, a professor of criminal justice at the University of Missouri, says the book is badly outdated and should not have any part in any police officer's training. Well, of course, a book like this should not be issued to recruits, period. Issuing them a book that is 30 years old gets them started off on the wrong foot. Well, that's one way to keep it old school, isn't it? All these new intelligent whippersnappers coming in here and changing our culture.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Chuck Grassley and Debbie Stabenow. This is by way of Reuters as well. Two U.S. senators from Midwestern states will introduce a bill today that would require foreign companies buying U.S. food and agriculture firms to undergo a review aimed at ensuring the deal would not hurt U.S. food security. The legislation from Senators Chuck Grassley, an Iowa Republican, and Debbie Stabenow, a Michigan Democrat, would add the Secretaries of Agriculture, Department and Health and Human Services, which oversees the Food and Drug Administration, to a panel that reviews mergers and other deals to ensure that those transactions do not harm national security. The agencies would join a group that is traditionally focused on preventing sensitive high technology and military expertise from falling into the wrong hands. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, or CFIUS, as the panel is known, is headed by the Treasury Department and includes the Departments of Defense, Justice, Homeland Security, Commerce, State, and Energy. The bill currently has no companion in the U.S. House of Representatives, though Representative Robert Pittenger, a Republican from North Carolina, has proposed exploring the idea of putting the Agriculture Secretary and the head of the Food and Drug Administration on the CFIUS board. Lawmakers have been concerned about several deals in the farm sector. And Stabenow was critical of the 2013 purchase of pork giant Smithfield Foods, Inc., by China's Shenhua International Holdings Limited. Since the discovery of tainted baby formula in China in 2008, the country has been hit by a series of food safety scandals. Chinese officials uncovered as many as 500,000 food safety violations in the first 9 months of 2016 alone. The CFIUS panel is so secretive it normally does not even comment after it makes a decision on a deal. It approves most transactions, but under former President Barack Obama, CFIUS stopped a series of Chinese acquisitions of high-end chip makers. And they did. In December, Obama blocked Extron's $717 million sale to Fujian Grand Chip Investment Fund over national security concerns. And in January of 2016, CFIUS stopped Philips from selling its U.S. lighting business to Go Scale Capital, made up of GSR Ventures, Oak Investment Partners, Asia Pacific Resource Development, and Nanchang Industrial Group, also because of national security matters. Of course, it's also interesting that now that CFIUS panel is headed by people that probably don't care and don't mind maybe China having some of those chips and the ability to poison us here with our own pork. You know, we send our pork over there to get processed. Then they send it back here tainted so that we can, I don't know, be easier to take over. You tell me. All right, let's get, all kidding aside, let's get to our Jim Hightower break, and we'll come back and go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar, and hopefully we can connect with Chris. Like I said, the weather may be impacting him, and we'll see. All right, you're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio, and with Week in Justice, and we will be right back.
It's time to state the obvious. The President of the United States is deranged. I don't mean he's merely idiosyncratic, nor do I say this as a political jab. I mean that Donald J. Trump literally is mentally ill. Okay, I'm no doctor, but you don't need a doctorate in mental disorders to see that his behavior in public and on Twitter is beyond abnormal. It's psychotic. As we've seen, he routinely plunges into prolonged fits of petty paranoia. He succumbs to delusions of imperialist grandeur. He spouts ridiculous right-wing rumors as facts and denies that actual facts are true. And he is pathologically addicted to lying, bizarrely repeating his most blatant fabrications even after they've been totally debunked. A sane, temperamentally balanced president, possessing all the power and majesty that America's supreme office conveys, doesn't get into demeaning public snits with the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger. doesn't feel a constant need to puff himself up with ridiculously false claims, such as his frantic insistence that the crowd at his inaugural celebration was the largest ever, doesn't rage rabidly at media outlets that displease him, blasting them as enemies of the people, and does not unleash a furious all-out attack on Barack Obama just because some radio talk show screwball made a proof-free claim that the former president had wiretapped Trump's campaign. This is Jim Hightower saying, these are not mere eccentricities, not just Trump being Trump. It's obvious that the guy is not well and is unable to handle the stress of being president. Indeed, his flaky behavior suggests he's on the brink of a personal breakdown, and his ever more frequent retreats to his posh Florida golf resort tells us he doesn't even want to do the job. His loved ones and his party should intervene for his sake and for America's, but they won't. So, will we?
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you. The Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
Indeed, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. Chris Reeves is safely ensconced either in a mobile platform or a stationary one, but in the vast Midwest of the United States. And our crew will always to us remain the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio and thus by extension the After Show to span the globe, the solar system, out past the Oort cloud, and beyond. Woo-hoo. Okay, today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar is facilitated by the great cartoonist Eric Lewis. And his question today is the word nationalist and its meaning, and what that might mean to us in today's new a-go-go society. And it is funny because a lot of white nationalists are questioning whether that's a proper term for them. Right? We're not white nationalists.
Yeah.
Which means they're Nazis, of course.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah, that's.
I think white nationalist is an apt term, and it describes, I think, better than, well, it describes it. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, remember that Wisconsin Cossacks are forming a group, and Cosmail Chris the Colodem to become part of that. And also remember that Navajo maintains the event list, so Cosmail her if you have any event or announcement that you would like to have announced, which will be on the diary and here on Netroots Radio as well. So Left Candid in Colorado, Tim, are the facilitators of the Caffeinating Liberally meetup in Colorado every fourth Saturday of every month, and they meet this month on March 25th at Common Grounds Coffee House, 44th and Vallejo in Denver from 9 a.m. to noonish at the table by the piano. Get a hold of Left Candid and Colorado Tim for that. Navajo will be in town on April 23rd, that town being New York City. Sunday. They're going to meet, as always, at Spitzer's Corner, 101 Rivington Street in the Ludlow District. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP. And then mark your calendars as well. Thinking Fella and Ojibwa are organizing the third Epic Glacier National Park meetup, held June 30th through July 2nd. Important planning details are spelled out in a diary, and the link is available at the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes Community Diary. And sending out positive vibrations to Bill in Portland, Maine. He's, last I heard, he's still in the hospital getting tests. But, of course, Netroots Nation 17, the Daily Codes annual Cheers and Cheers dinner. It will be held this year, Wednesday, August 9th at 5:30 p.m. Location to be determined. When you Cosme El Navajo and RSVP, so she knows how big of a conference hall to get.
Exactly. Yep.
And I mentioned Bill in Portland, Maine, because he, of course, is responsible for Cheers and Cheers. And he's going to, he'll be well, and we'll see him there.
Oh, yeah.
At Netroots Nation. Okay, that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar for the 14th week of March. Yes, the Ides of March is still upon us, Hey, so now we're in the last half, and we get to visit with Chris Reeves. Thanks, Chris. You're sort of, you are our breath of fresh air, and I like putting you on what we call Red Sky at Morning Tuesdays, because I figure, like, if you're looking for a drink, you can always say it's noon sometime in the world. And if you think there's a storm of ruin somewhere in the world, there is. And boy, oh boy, are there storms of ruin. It's sort of like, when a Nazi butterfly beats its wings, say like in Kansas.
Yep.
Does it make a typhoon in the Bavarian forest? Possibly. Let's talk about this guy who equated Planned Parenthood with Nazis, and is he trying to get to the idea of the gas chambers? Is that what this was all about? What is this guy's angle?
Well, he Planned Parenthood, like any nonprofit, allows people to donate in the honor of someone. Well, someone put a donation into Planned Parenthood Great Plains, which is Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Arkansas. All the center of the country is Planned Parenthood Great Plains. And they donated money in the name of Senator Steve Fitzgerald. Now, Steve Fitzgerald is a radical anti-choicer. And he received a letter that said, thank you for your, a donation has been made in your honor, et cetera, et cetera. And he blew a gasket, sent out a letter and said, how dare you accept a donation in my name? Your organization is the equivalent of the Nazis. He compared them to Dachau. And then that caused quite a bit of media stir of, oh my goodness, why is he bringing so much attention, to this issue of somebody probably gave $25 or something in his name, and he's all of a sudden blowing it up, and he said, well, this is just like being associated with Nazis. They're associating me with Planned Parenthood, and I won't stand for it. And people thought he might, I don't want to say recant, but back down. Right. And so the following day, the press got hold of him, and they said, seriously, is this really what you meant? And he said, oh, no, they're worse than the Nazis. And then he went on a whole other tear of how terrible and how they must be stopped, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, the problem is that, for some of us, it's a little amusing to go, this guy's a lunatic. But the problem, as Cecil Richards and several others pointed out, is that the moment you start saying these things, that Planned Parenthood is the equivalent or worse than the Nazis, you're justifying a war footing with Planned Parenthood. You're basically saying, hey, Planned Parenthood is so radically evil that almost anything is justified to stop them. And that's the kind of thing that encourages violence. And that's something that Planned Parenthood and a few others brought up and said, hey, this is not okay. This is not the way this is supposed to work. And he has not he hasn't recanted. He's not going to back down. He keeps doubling down on how serious and outraged he is, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's both. It shows him as a kook, but it's also pretty concerning that people don't, haven't thought through at all the implications of saying things this way.
Well, I also think that he's probably unaware that he just opened himself up for probably thousands of more donations in his name.
Oh, yeah. There are going to be a ton of people now who are like, hey, if I can get this guy's goat by saying this stuff, I will 100%, just say,
No, can you fill me in? Now, of course, in Kansas politics, this is much more citizen representative than the rest of us are probably aware of. I mean, this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, he has to work at a regular job because Kansas politicians or legislator only meets for part of the year. What is
they
this
meet part of the
background?
year? Legislators only paid about $17,000 here, so you can't work as a legislator for your full-time job. Not unless you want to starve, I suppose. And so very few do that. Well, Steve Fitzgerald is kind of his own. It's hard to explain. He's up in Leavenworth County, and which is Leavenworth is part of Wyandotte. So we're talking. You would love to think that this is rural, but this is actually right outside of Kansas City, Kansas. So there is literally an access point for Planned Parenthood, miles close by to his darn district, which makes his comments even more offensive. It's not as though he's, far separated and knows nothing about it. He absolutely knows. And his position here is tenuous. He ran a race this last cycle, and it was the closest Senate race in the state. I believe he won by 500 votes. So he is not in one of those seats where you say he can never lose. So him saying these kind of things, we won't get to deal with him again for 4 years. But in 4 years, we're going to find out pretty quickly that I think he may be in trouble. There are some people who will lap up, what he's saying. His traditional base. And the thing that has happened is over the years, lots of the people on our side of the fence, they just stay home, during elections. They just have a tendency to just not be motivated, has been the Democratic problem. But now, thanks to Trump, lots more people are motivated, interested, and paying attention. And so it means things like his comments, stand out more. More people notice, and more people go, holy hell, this guy is a kook.
I was
and we're hoping
about that. I was curious about that because, I'm in this, and I think you may be as well, in the dubious position. Well, maybe I won't include you in this. I'm sorry. But for me, I'm in this dubious position of, for instance, like as onerous as a Steve King is, and as onerous as this fellow is, there are people that voted for him and continue to vote for them, and they get in. And I was curious about the constituency here. Was it really as broad-based as it seems, or is it another instance where Democrats in these areas hunker down for any number of reasons? But now, like I mentioned a few weeks before, when a lot of this was coming out and we saw the town halls, it just reminded me of not Hirohito, but the Japanese admiral who said, "I fear all we've done is awakened a sleeping giant," and so does this fellow himself? I mean, he was propped up mostly by a constituency that is small but motivated to vote, but the larger constituency has woken up, possibly.
Well, what it is there's probably a percentage of his vote, let's say I don't even think it's that huge of a percentage, maybe 30% or so of his vote that is completely with his, argument of blah, blah, Planned Parenthood is evil, all these people are evil, religious, et cetera. That's probably about 30% of his vote. The other big portion of his vote are just people who've always voted Republican their entire life, and so they've always voted Republican, and they don't know that much about him. It's State House news doesn't percolate the same way that news about the national does. So they're just like, well, he's a Republican, so he's for low taxes and less government, and that's who he is, and whatever. And then on the Democratic side, there are lots of people who also weren't paying huge attention to this is who this guy is. They're like, he's a Republican. And so you didn't get them motivated to just say, boy, we got to get out there and, beat this guy. So there's kind of a perfect storm that happens, not just in Kansas, but everywhere, where we have a huge amount of the electorate who are, I don't want to say checked out, but they've decided long ago that they're less concerned with, politics doesn't impact me. I don't care. Why should I care, et cetera, et cetera. And so they either don't vote or, sometimes vote. And as a result, you end up with people like Steve King and people like, Steve Fitzgerald, who just win because their core base, that 30% of the electorate, are hardcore voters. They vote every single time. And so they're enough of a block that they his numbers to guarantee him a starting point. And then he just has to get enough of what's left. Well, that's the part that we have to overcome. Democrats have for years not had that solid, everybody in their, I go vote no matter what. This is the person I'm voting for. I'm voting for, X, Y, Z, because I always have, and that's
right.
How that's going to go.
Now, did he make these proclamations in session or at his office at a sort of a rant with the media?
No, he sent it in a letter to Planned Parenthood.
Okay, I got it. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, he sent a letter to Planned Parenthood and made it public, and so that's.
Now, have any other Kansas legislators spoken up? I mean, we've got Cecil Richards, of course, with Planned Parenthood, but
right, and of course, Planned Parenthood Great Plains also said something. We've had people make it well known where they stand. It's just we'll have to see, what exactly happens next. That's okay. Going to be the question.
Now, the issues with Planned Parenthood are not only in the moral universe. I think a lot of people think because Planned Parenthood has, the stigma of abortion and whatnot. But there's also dovetails into the whole larger question about the ACA being changed into Trump Care and what the true mission of Planned Parenthood is, and that's being a resource and in some cases an actual provider of health care. And so now probably in Trump land, people are coming up to terms with the facts of what their health care might be like. And places like Planned Parenthood or even, the local rural hospital that closed down, that's all impacted. People are seeing that if I'm 64 and I'm making, I'm making $30,000, but my health care bill is going to be $12,000 for the year. So half of my yearly income is going to go towards health care at a time when it's going to get kind of be hard to get a job.
Right.
How is this trickling down? Are people beginning to? I mean, other than us. I mean, of course, we've been showing up to town halls, but the people that are going to be impacted who didn't vote our side, are they making their feelings known, or are they still processing, or does it matter?
I think more people are making it known. Roger Marshall, who's, of course, the representative who came out and said, poor people don't want health care. He was on a tour of the state here recently, going around doing town halls, and he ran into a lot of resistance in a lot of town halls where people were basically, what the hell is this? Why did you say this? This is not what you told us when you were running for office. And I think that you're getting more people show up at these now who are motivated in comparison to before. It doesn't mean that we're at that tipping point yet where we have enough where people are avoiding them, like you saw in other states where some people just ran away from town halls. We're not there, but we're definitely getting a lot more pushback in them. And I think the question is going to be whether or not that carries over, whether that carries over to the broader public, whether or not we see enough in the broader public say, hey, I bought this guy is bad. Let's turn this guy over. But I think if you look at it, look at Kathy Allen, who's running in Utah against Chaffetz, who made the iPhone comment. If you would have told me beforehand, hey, somebody in Utah is going to raise $500,000, through Daily Kos and CrowdPack in a matter of days, in a district that is very difficult for a Democrat, I would say no. But she struck while the iron was hot. She made a good case. And there are a lot of Republicans who are going to face unexpected pressure because there are Democrats now who are more motivated to give directly to small market candidates than ever before, because we're realizing that the more pressure you put on, the more you spread the other side thin. That's the one thing that has really suffered under the Obama administration, was we had a tendency to play to our strengths. And as a result, Republicans were allowed to save money. They didn't have to spend money in a lot of these races. Well, what we've discovered now is, hey, if you can force a Republican to spend money in Kansas 02 or Missouri 5 or Utah 3 or whatever, win or lose, it's one where that means there's less Republican money to spread around to all these other candidates. And that's what we're going to have to do, is basically draw their fire, force them to go out with everything and force them to compete. And that makes it much harder for them, to hold everything. If you give people free passes, then they just save their money. And if we diminish those opportunities for them, the better off it is for us.
Could we be, and this is a more overarching question, not necessarily just about healthcare, but about, the whole kit and caboodle, we'll say. Could we be possibly at the cusp and manifested out of a Trump presidency and all that entails? Could we be on the cusp of changing that dynamic where Democrats don't show up for the midterms? Are people motivated to do something immediate? And what's immediate right now are the midterms. And we broached the subject a little bit during the DNC campaign for leadership and other offices. Is the DNC looking at, because we never played to the midterms.
Right.
Right. Can we change that dynamic, or are we on the cusp of doing that, or are we just waiting for the president?
I think we're on the cusp. I think we're on the cusp of doing it. I think what's about to happen is we're already actively out there trying to get midterm candidates, but we're starting to actually talk about it now, which is ideal because the more time that we've got to build their name ID, the better off we are. But we're also looking at New Jersey's 2017 races, Virginia's 2017 races. So we're looking at these
even more immediate.
Yeah, even more immediate this November races. Right. And those, I think, if we can show some payoff, that'll be good. Hell, we're already looking a little bit at, Georgia 6, which is about to happen, and Montana's special election, and Kansas is having a special election. And so we're working on those too.
Well, getting to the dynamic of the town hall, I've never been, I'll just put it out there, never been a fan of Darrell Issa. And the town halls that he, I guess for a better term, lack of a better term, subjected himself to, definitely showed up in his assessment of this Trump Care bill or proposal. But that's because he recognizes that his position as an elected official is tenable in his upcoming election.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to be smart enough? I mean, it seems really organic that the vulnerable Congress critters and senators are being hounded at their town halls. But is there a way? I mean, can that be coordinated, or is that being coordinated? Can it be? Shouldn't that be part of our larger strategy? Is to identify not just the name, elected officials like an Issa, but, the quiet ones who just vote down party line, but are just as onerous in their own way. I mean, I guess that would be part of the strategy, but are we acting on it now?
No, we are. In fact, there's already been kind of a built list, which is going out to people pretty frequently of here's some of the efforts that are going on in, the 2017 and the special elects. And we're trying to get better about it, but it's still, there's a lot of reform work that needs to happen, but we're making progress, not as fast as I wish at times, right. But there's at least an effort to get better at those things.
Now, in your neck of the woods, are state houses and other elections, the bulk of them in the midterm part of the cycle, or do they coordinate up with the presidential cycle, national cycle?
No, so we have our own. So the state house is for say up next in 2018, but for us, the big races in 2018 are all of our statewide. So right. In 2018, we have a governor's election, Secretary of State, all of those races, they all come up.
What happens if Brownback gets his ambassadorship, and is there a special election, or does the lieutenant governor step in?
His lieutenant governor would serve it out.
Okay.
So,
is that person a tenable candidate for the next?
No. That person could not survive a Republican primary.
Okay.
So if that happens, then this becomes a free-for-all on both sides of the aisle in the governor's race.
If Brownback gets the ambassadorship, is that like a way out for the guy? Is this like a...
Oh, I think he's lobbying really
hard
card? For that too. Yeah. I think he's lobbying really, really hard for that to be a way out.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how that shakes out, because that could be news by next Tuesday when we talk with you again. So, all right, Chris, thank you for today, and we'll speak with you next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, folks. Well, let's see. We better bug out of here, it being Tuesday, of course. As always, we'll have Hartman coming up about 6 minutes after the hour, and followed by Democracy Now!, and then the fantastic and great Get Yourself a Stinking Podcast, Randy Rhodes.
Yeah.
And that's Buy Yourself a Stinking Podcast, by the way. And, what else? We'll be listening to, in the interim, before Hartman comes up, we'll listen to Jazzanova's The Morning Side of Love. But also, remember, tomorrow we will be visiting with Angela Marks, also known as Angie in Washington State.
Yes.
And we'll speak some more about politics in the Northwest and over the nation. So Stay tuned to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. Why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.